You ever make a decision and then maybe a day later you think to yourself, what on earth was I thinking? Yeah, we all like to believe we're these super rational beings, carefully weighing all the pros and cons. But what if I told you there are these hidden forces, these mental shortcuts that are constantly shaping your decisions without you even noticing?
I mean, it's a pretty big question, right? And it really gets to the heart of what we're digging into today. How much of what you decide, from what you buy to who you trust, even to what you believe, is actually your conscious choice? Well, the answer lies in something called cognitive biases. The best way to think about them is like your brain's operating system, running all these little programs in the background. They're basically mental shortcuts that help us sort through the crazy amount of information we get hit with every single day. And look, they're often super useful, but they can also lead to some seriously flawed thinking.
Okay, let's dive into a big one, something I guarantee you've seen online. We're going to call it the echo chamber effect, but its official name is confirmation bias. The definition itself is pretty simple, but it is so powerful. It means our brains are literally wired to go looking for information that supports what we already think is true. We aren't just passive observers. We're actively on the hunt for proof that, yep, we were right all along. And you see this play out everywhere. If you have a strong political view, you'll probably find yourself scrolling through news and social media that totally agrees with you. Or maybe you think a certain stock is a fantastic investment. Well, you're going to click on all the articles saying it's going to the moon and probably just ignore the ones that are flashing warning signs. And that's exactly where the danger is. You end up in this bubble, this echo chamber, where your own beliefs are just bounced back at you, getting stronger and louder each time. It makes it almost impossible to consider another point of view or, and this is the scary part, to even realize when you might be wrong. So, confirmation bias is all about reinforcing what we already believe. But what about the very first piece of information we get? Well, that brings us to our next bias, called anchoring. And it is all about the incredible power of a first impression.
Just imagine this. You're out shopping, you see a jacket you like, you look at the price tag, and it says $200. Right away, your brain locks onto that number. That's it. That's the anchor.
But then, right next to it, you see this big, bright red sign, sale. Now only $100. Now, what's your gut reaction? You feel like you're getting an absolute steal, right? I mean, 50% off?
But wait a second. That feeling, that sense that you're getting a great deal, it's based almost completely on that first number, that $200 anchor. The real question you should be asking is, forgetting the original price for a moment, is this jacket actually worth $100 to you? That anchor makes it so hard to think about it clearly. So here's the key takeaway. That first piece of information we see becomes our mental benchmark for everything that follows. It doesn't matter if we're negotiating a salary or buying a car, that first number that gets thrown out there has this huge subconscious pull on the entire rest of the conversation. All right, next up, let's get into one of the most powerful emotional forces in all of decision-making, our deep, almost primal fear of losing something we already have. In psychology, this is called loss aversion. The whole idea is that the pain of losing, say, $100, feels way worse than the joy of finding $100. Our brains are basically programmed to be security guards for what we possess. And this instinct can really get us into trouble. A classic example is with investments. People will often cling to a stock that's just tanking, not because they truly believe it's going to bounce back, but because selling it would mean they have to actually admit the loss. It would make it real, and they'll do anything to avoid that pain. This brings us straight to something called the sunk cost fallacy. Just look at this table. A rational decision maker in that middle column sees past investments for what they are: gone. Irrelevant. The only thing that matters is the future. But when you're caught in the sunk cost trap, on the right there, you're a prisoner of the past. All you can think is, but I've already put so much time and money into this, I can't quit now. And so you end up throwing good money after bad. So we're stuck in echo chambers, we're anchored to bad deals, and we're terrified of cutting our losses. Yikes. It sounds kind of bleak, doesn't it? But here's the good news. You absolutely can learn to outsmart your own brain. And here's the most important thing to remember. These mental shortcuts aren't bugs in your system. They're features. They evolved to help us survive and make quick judgments. You can't just wish them away. The problem is, in our crazy, complex modern world, they can backfire. And that's why just being aware of them is the single biggest step you can take toward getting back in the driver's seat. So, what can you actually do? Well, first, just admit it. Acknowledge that you have these biases, because we all do. Second, make a real effort to break out of your echo chamber. Go find perspectives that actually challenge your own. Third, when it's a big decision, try to lean on objective data, not just your gut feeling. And finally, look back at your past choices, kind of become a detective of your own decision making, and ask yourself, was a bias pulling the strings there? Look, understanding all these hidden forces isn't about becoming a perfectly rational robot. That's just not going to happen. It's about being a more aware, more thoughtful participant in your own life. It's about knowing when to trust your gut and when to maybe second guess it. So the real challenge isn't just knowing which bias might pop up next, it's deciding what you're going to do about it.